It is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. This is another offseason edition of Baseball Today. That is not my man, Trevor Plouffe. That is my dude, Jolly Olive. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well, as we're a couple days out from Thanksgiving. Are you ready for that holiday? Where does it fall on your list of favorites, by the way?
Oh, it's high up there, Chris Rose. I'm talking top two. It goes back and forth with Christmas. I think this year it's two, but I mean, we might get to Turkey Day and I might change my mind.
It's always number one for me because
Really?
it just takes me back to my family days in particular. My dad's birthday was always right around Thanksgiving, so
Oh,
that was
that's
fun,
nice.
and that was
Well,
his
that's
favorite
sweet.
holiday. He's been gone 13 years now, but it's always, I talk about my dad a lot and how much
That's
I
a
miss
nice,
him.
sweet
So
way to open the show, Chris
yeah,
Rose.
but
How
it's
about that?
true. It's true, and
Sweet.
he was an enormous baseball fan, and one thing he definitely would have loved, because he was gone before they started the World Baseball Classic, I believe in 2013, is the fact that they made it official that Shohei Ohtani's going to be back. But all I could do when I saw the graphic come out was, could you imagine if for some reason it was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm a little too tired. It's been a long couple of seasons. I just want a little extra break in spring training.
Yeah, like the news didn't shock me, but I had the same thought of like, aren't you like tired? Don't you want to like be home for a little
Right.
bit, hang out with his dog, whose name I'm forgetting?
Decoy. And
Decoy, of course.
and how about his daughter?
Oh yeah, that too. That's probably important too.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point, is he just going to have to stop? Because he's like a great baseball ambassador. Yes, man. At
Right.
some point, is he going to be like, guys, I'm good. Like, I don't want to go to the All-Star game this year.
I don't think that day is near. I'll say that.
I hope not, because the sport needs him and we need him. But I can't. You dig the World Baseball Classic, don't you?
Do I dig it? I absolutely dig it, Chris Rose. In fact, I was watching old World Baseball Classic highlights in the best quality I've seen them, like '06, '09, because of our cool new MLB partnership. They have all that footage in the
Right.
backlog. So I was sifting through that because I'm planning up some videos that I'm going to make around the time when it's topical.
Okay. Yeah. And well, thank you for correcting me on that. I forgot that it did go all the way back to '06.
You know, it was a subtle correction. I wasn't going to call it
Yeah.
out, but then you
That's all
did.
right.
So
That's all right.
there you are.
When you get this old, you tend to forget when things start and when things stop. It's just, it was
Right.
some point over the last.
Not your favorite shows, though. You never miss those.
No. Like baseball today. So let's get to it. It's the reason I'm wearing a Mets cap. Man, was I thinking
Ah,
about you the other day when they pulled off the biggest trade so far of the offseason. Another 1-for-1 between the Mets
yeah.
and the Rangers. Marcus Semien is now headed to Queens in return for Brandon Nimmo. Lifelong Met in Nimmo had to actually waive his no-trade clause to get it done because that wasn't easy. Nimmo thought about joining Mets legend David Wright with his
Yeah.
number hanging in the rafters one day.
I would honestly rather win a World Series. And I thought, that was in a good position, was trying to do that with the Mets. But they had made it, apparent that like they felt like the best way to move forward for the Mets was this trade. And so I needed to know that the Rangers were committed to trying to win a World Series as well, and that this wasn't a rebuild that I was coming into, that this was somewhere that one, I was extremely wanted, and they made that abundantly clear. And two, was somewhere that I felt like in the next 5 years we would be competing for World Series titles, year in and year out.
I just wonder how that conversation went with him and David Stearns and the flood of emotions that went over him, because he said he just built like this huge compound down in Port St. Lucie
Yeah.
where the Mets train, and he's got a young daughter as well that just turned 1 over the weekend. So it's easy for us to just say, oh, go show up in a different uniform. For a guy like him, he's got to wait the rest of his life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely foreign unknown, and for him, he's been a part of this organization since 2011. That was when he was a first round pick for this club. Yeah, it's I said this a little bit on Talking Baseball. I've been watching this core for a long time, the Nimmo Alonso core since 2019. And Nimmo was the last active teammate that played with David Wright still on the Mets. That's now gone. But at the same time, I think you can take that both ways. You can take it in the direction of maybe this team needs a shakeup. Maybe the guys that have been here for a while don't necessarily need to come back for something to change because this team fell short in 2025. You can say a lot of different things of would Brendan Nimmo still be here in this offseason had the Mets performed to their expectations that they had set for themselves in the first half of the season. Outside of all of that, the Texas Rangers are getting their hands on a very talented player here,
Mhm.
still with 5 years left on his contract. Brandon Nimmo has never been under league average offensively for his entire career, coming off a career high with 25 home runs. He's a quality ball player. I think the main points of concern here were recurring plantar fasciitis issues in his foot and recurring neck issues. He had a bulging disc last year, and that kind of thing is still bothering him. At one point in May of 2024, completely locked up on him during a game. Nimmo doesn't miss time. In fact, the last 4 seasons, he's played 150 games or more. I think David Stearns likely was thinking long term with this deal. What's going to happen in 2029 and 2030 when Nimmo's 37, 38 years old? We're still paying him $20 million. Is he able to play the field? But you can analyze all of that at the same time. The fact that it's real still hurts because Nimmo is a link to my past of rooting for the Mets. And, it takes me back to where I was in my life 10 years ago watching this team. But at the same time, at a certain point, rosters need to evolve. And the Mets thought that this was the best course of action for evolving their roster.
Yeah, and he's one of those aw shucks guys, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he grew up in freaking what wasn't it Cheyenne or something?
He grew up in, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Yeah. So, but for him to endear himself to that hardened New York fan base, I thought was really kind of a fun sidebar, if you will, to the last decade there in Queens. They're going to miss his productivity. There's no question about it. To me, it's a little bit of Stearns looking at, we'll take 3 years and whatever, 72 million of Marcus Semien instead of 5 and 102 of Brandon Nimmo.
Right.
And okay, Marcus Semien the last 2 years, major declining offensive numbers, sub 700 OPS, but he just won a Gold Glove. It means that we don't have to mess around with what's at second base anymore. We can let him do his thing there. And then it gives us a lot more positional flexibility. And I mean, to me, don't the Mets have 2 openings in the outfield right now?
They sure do.
Okay. So we'll get to what that means next for them. I think that that's always the interesting thing with trades and one of the many reasons I love. What does it mean next? Like for the Texas Rangers, they just got rid of Adolis Garcia, right? They non-tendered him. He was one of several key contributors on that 2023 World Series team that has now been moved on. And they're a team that has been 500 at best since winning the World Series. I think they won 81 and then 78 games, something like that. They've got to totally change a little bit of who they are right now. Does this allow them to do it? What it does is it gives them a guy that they can plug in. You said play 150, 155 games, whatever it is, and give constant production. The one thing that you'd like to see if you're a Rangers fan is Nimmo return with the on base. His walk rate took a major dip last year. And I don't know, you saw way more games than I did. Was there something going on?
Yeah, I think that was a conscious decision that's been building for a little bit here. Nimmo has been trying to slug more, and that's why you see the last 3 seasons he's hit 23 home runs or more. But I do maintain that I think that Nimmo was at the best version of himself when he was leading off every day. He had the on bases over 400. He was working quality at bats. I think part of that has made him a little bit more passive than he should be at the plate, taking pitches that he should be swinging at. So some combination of the two, I think, can still be unlocked with Brandon Nimmo. I do think there is that higher echelon season for him. I think he has 30 home runs in his bat, and I also think he can do that while getting on base at a 350 clip. Like I said before, the Texas Rangers are getting a very good player in Brandon Nimmo. This decision was purely made, I think, to, one, improve the run prevention of the Mets defense, which was among the worst in the league last year, and left field is a position you can very easily upgrade in that facet. And two, it was because of those last 2 years of the deal, the $20.5 million you're going to free up, which will hopefully go to talent on the free agent market like Pete Alonso, like Edwin Diaz, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, the Mets are paying a higher penny, right? It's about 26 mil as opposed to 20.5 per year that you're going to pay Semien. And if you're good enough, listen, he's even with all of his offensive struggles, he's going to be a 3 to 4 WAR player, even in his mid to late 30s, just based on the defense and the position value there. So it kind of gets us to our next question, which is what's next for each team, because you can't look at these trades simply in a vacuum, a 1-for-1 deal. Oh, here we go. This is our big move. That's not it at all. I heard you mention the names Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz. I mean, do you think that a reunion is in store or not?
Well, it'll be very telling, the Pete Alonso decision, of whether or not the Mets want to completely leave behind this pre-Cohen, talent that is still on the roster. Alonso, of course, coming up in 2019 before Cohen took ownership of the team. I think that would be more symbolic, if anything. I think there's more analytical decisions being made there because, again, the one thing David Stearns preached a ton in his end of season presser was run prevention, run prevention, run prevention. And the two guys you can point to as being some of the weaker defenders on the team were Alonso and Nimmo, but that obviously doesn't factor in the offense that they brought to this lineup. I do think the Mets would be sorely missing Pete Alonso if they do not bring him back. As for Diaz, they should be all in because imagine where this pitching staff would have been without the presence of Edwin Diaz, who had a season as good as the 2022 season that got him the 5-year deal in the first place. For the Texas Rangers, it is definitely an interesting case because is Wyatt Langford now going to play center field? Does Evan Carter fully get the keys in that position again? Brandon Nimmo is apparently playing right field, so they go from one of the best arms in baseball in Adolis Garcia to one of the worst in Brandon Nimmo, and I'm curious to see what that adjustment looks like. Second base right now is listed as Josh Smith for them. Josh Smith is a terrific utility player, easily the best piece they got in the Joey Gallo trade. But I wonder if he's given the keys to the starting role as Fangraphs has it listed right now, because the Texas Rangers fully have money to operate and make more big moves this offseason. Jake's been talking a lot about Geno Suarez to the Rangers. I'm curious to see if that happens. Add 40 home runs to that lineup, and suddenly you're thinking a lot differently about them. The one thing they don't really need to fix, I think, is the pitching, because the pitching was superb for them last year. That's kind of a maybe in a set it and forget it type situation.
Yeah, I think they feel like after DeGrom and Eovaldi, there might be some questions, and certainly in their bullpen, which I think they need to revamp and invest in. Offensively, they were one of the great mysteries of the last few years. Like, why weren't they any better than what they were? And we've heard, Ken Rosenthal float out the rumors of Corey Seager, and most likely that trade not happening. Could you imagine what they could get for him? I know there's the injury history, but when you're talking about productivity on the field and in October, there are few guys that are better than Corey Seager.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they already got out of one back half of the
Yes.
contract they didn't want to be involved in with Semien. They could do it again with Seager, but that's also kind of a slap in the face to what they told Brandon Nimmo, because if you're
Yes.
trading Corey Seager, you're not trying to win a World Series this year. If you're trying to win a
No.
World Series, you have Corey Seager on your roster.
But what did he say in that soundbite that we played? In the next 5 years.
That's true. 5 years is a long time. That's
Right.
true.
I mean, that's like,
True.
I know that that's the rest of his contract, so maybe that's what he was utilizing as a jumping off point, but that kind of made my ears perk up.
I have the Rangers offseason being very interesting from this point forward, maybe even more interesting than the Mets, honestly.
More interesting.
I do, yeah. The AL West is much more of an open division, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
The Astros are the most vulnerable they've been in 10 years. The Mariners finally climbed the mountain and got as far as they did in the playoffs. But again, I never, hang my hat on the Mariners having big off seasons, because I feel like we're more disappointed than we are impressed with what they do. The Rangers have an opportunity here. If the Rangers were a league average offense in 2025, they would have made the playoffs. And, last time they made the playoffs, they were the 5 seed and they won the World Series. So anything could have happened if not for all those injuries and the underperformance of their offense.
Yeah, but let's remember, they slid to the 5 seed over that last weekend. I mean, they were AL West leaders for a long time in that division until somebody made a speech for the Houston Astros. Remember who that was?
I don't. Can you refresh my memory?
That was Alex Bregman, who
interesting.
said something about, I guess we'll never know, right? The Texas Rangers thought it could win the division or whatever. I guess we'll never know. Well, I keep bringing up Alex Bregman to your New York Mets because I do think that David Stearns wants to hit a little bit of a refresher button on the clubhouse. You would still be getting a top-notch third baseman offensively and, most importantly, defensively. Okay, we can't have Vientos over there. I really don't think that if you're talking about run prevention,
more trades are coming. I'll say that. More trades are coming.
Let's be serious about it. Or maybe put him at first base.
I watched a couple games of that. That wasn't exactly pretty
good. You don't think that with significant time over there that he could get any better?
I think if he's a DH and he plays the way he did in 2024, he's a valuable asset.
Okay.
That's what I'll say.
Okay. But if you add Alex Bregman, I think you're clearing up a lot of spots. Obviously, the dude can still rake in his early 30s. He is a leader. He's a winner. He's a Gold Glove winner on top of everything else. I really think that if Pete Alonso could pull at the heartstrings with a return there, but I didn't draft Bregman in our free agency draft show that we did together with Plouffe and with Jake, because he went off the board first, I think. I think Jake had him going to Detroit or something
Did you
like
see
that.
that it was the exact same first pick made in the last year's draft? It was Bregman to the Tigers again.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, Jake made the exact same number 1 pick 2 years in a row. Or it might have been Trev that did it the year before, but still, that made me laugh so much.
So cliche. Come on, guys. Let's get a little more oomph
Have
to
an
it.
original thought. Come on.
I would bring Alex Bregman into Queens. I think it would just do a lot for a breath of fresh air there and productivity on both sides of the baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I would of course welcome that with open arms. The reason I like the Semien move outside of his great glove at second base, which I still think will hold true next year, is the fact that he's been there and done that. He did the whole dance. He won the 2023 World Series, and I think that leadership matters in a clubhouse. Vocal leaders matter in a clubhouse. The Mets might have not had that in the room during their slide last year, and making efforts to get that, I think, is really important. And it's especially even better when you get a player like Alex Bregman, who is still a fantastic player on the field as well as off the field. What does that mean for Brett Beatty? I don't know. But at the same time, if you have the opportunity to bring Alex Bregman in, as well as Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz, because the Mets can afford to do these things financially, I think you make those concerted efforts and you worry about the long-term later. You just got out of one long-term deal. I guess you can afford to bring on another, might be their philosophy.
So I just want to get this straight before we move on. You think it's a failure if they don't bring back Alonso?
I think it's a failure. I think Alonso wants to come back here. I think it would be very telling of the way David Stearns views Pete Alonso, both in the present and long term. But as far as I'm concerned, the Mets should be the front runner. I think most baseball fans would agree with that sentiment.
Well, I think you know to some degree what he thinks of him. I don't know if he wanted to bring him back last year and he ends up re-upping.
But I'm saying if David Stearns offers him the exact same deal, that means that the season that Pete Alonso just had, which by the way, let's talk about it really quick. It was pretty damn good. I accidentally pulled up yonder Alonso. You're going to need to give me another second. 38 home runs, 126 RBIs. That was a career high for him, or a career best since 2022. Led the league with 41 doubles, 871 on OPS. That's not exactly easy to go find on the market right now. Pete Alonso was extremely valuable to this team, and I think it would make perfect sense for him to come back. I would be very, very disappointed if he doesn't.
Just for the record, Yonder Alonso had a very nice year at MLB Network.
He did.
He'll be first-year arbitration eligible there, and so it'll be very interesting to see how he fits there. You know, they got some high-priced talent.
Hey, 28 homers in the show one year. That was huge. All-star?
Yeah.
He's a good ball player.
I want to say Yonder was a top 10 pick.
Yonder
I want to say
a top 10 pick for the Reds in 2008.
Hold on. I think he was the 7th pick.
Good job, Rosie.
All right.
Who got picked ahead of him?
What year is this?
This is 08.
08.
So Buster Posey went 5th that year. Hosmer went 3rd.
Who went 3rd?
Alvarez went 2nd. Hosmer went 3rd.
Oh, Hosmer went 3rd. Who'd you say went 2nd?
Pedro Alvarez.
Okay, Pedro Alvarez, who went to Vanderbilt. Super nice guy.
Do you remember who went 1-1 in this draft?
Okay.
It's a crazy name.
I think obviously if you give me the team, I'll
give you shortstop to the Rays.
Tim Beckham.
Tim Beckham went 1-1 in the 08 draft. That's crazy.
While we're here, so what team had the 4th pick?
What team had the 4th pick? That would be the Baltimore Orioles. And they took a pitcher, a lefty.
Yeah. Was it Brian Mattis?
It was Brian Mattis. He passed recently.
Yeah.
Look at you, Rosie. Your draft history is very impressive.
Yeah, if you get me, I know this is a baseball show, but if you get me in the NFL circles,
draft matters a little bit more over there from what I hear.
Oof, I will. We'll be there all day. I'll be naming weird stuff.
We'll get you on Jam Football. We can make a new game.
Believe
the
me,
whole first round of this.
I've been begging to do that stuff.
I
So
know.
yeah, do like fun drafts from 1988.
I'll
By the
clue
way,
in Justin Pennick.
Andre Bruce was the first pick that year. He was arguably one of the worst NFL first number 1 picks ever.
You could have told me any name. I would have believed you.
Yes.
Any name.
No, Andre Bruce went to Auburn. So, let's continue.
Now you're just flexing your muscles. What is this?
I know. I feel now you're making me feel good. You got to show up more often. Plouffe does not do this.
I know,
He
right?
doesn't stroke me the way.
You can't say that.
Let's not clip that, please. No. All right, today's episode of Baseball Today is sponsored by Best Western Hotels and Resorts. Life's a trip, so why not make the most of it? And with over 4,000 hotels worldwide, Best Western is there for every detour, destination, unexpected twist and turn along the way. So whether you're hitting the road, traveling for work, or chasing the next big game, there's a room waiting for you. But a great stay isn't just about rest, it's about what comes next. A great stay doesn't just help you recharge, it sets the tone for the early wake up, the late night arrival, or the last minute change of plans. Best Western thing I love about them most, I get it. Traveling isn't one size fits all. It's for the planners like me, the procrastinators like our one of a kind producer, Dan Rourke, the loyalty point collectors, and the hey, I just booked it crowd. So whether you're flying solo, with your friends, your entire roster, Best Western has got you covered. All you have to do, pack your bag, cue up the playlist, hit the road. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at bestwestern.com, which is something that Jolly Olive knows very well because he utilized Best Western throughout our baseball season.
It's very true. I only have glowing positive things to say about Best Western.
All right, let's move on. Tatsuya Imai, one of the most sought-after pitchers in the free agent market. Japanese right-hander has until January 2nd to sign on the dotted line. But a lot of people are worried out there. Oh, he's just going to join his fellow countrymen in Los Angeles and just add another stud to their already stacked pitching staff and blah, blah, blah. No. Imai told Daisuke Matsusaka on his show Hodo Station over in Japan, quote, "Of course I'd enjoy playing alongside Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki, but winning against a team like that and becoming a world champion would be the most valuable thing in my life. If anything, I'd rather take them down." Are those spicy comments or no big deal?
Now, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but I do remember a similar story that was run with Roki Sasaki last year when he was very close to coming on with the Padres, and then that ended up not happening. I will say I take Imai at a little bit more face value here because of some of the other things he said in the interview, including the fact that the hitter that he wants to face the most is Shohei Ohtani because he wants to see how good his fastball is, which I thought was very funny. He has a very close relationship with Daisuke Matsuzaka, and that conversation happened because Daisuke was talking about how the fact that he almost signed with the Seattle Mariners, but then he realized he wouldn't be able to face Ichiro if he signed with the Mariners, so he ended up going a different way. That was one of the key decisions that made him sign with the Red Sox. Imai is very interesting. I've been doing a lot of field research on him this week, gathering info because I'm going to do a profile this Saturday. And the more I learn about him, the more I like, is what I'll say, especially about his mentality.
Yeah, he seems like, but even in just some of the little clips, we've seen a lot of emotion out of him on the mound and fired up and stuff like that. Not in that particular clip that we're showing, but we have shown other ones, and you can see his blood gets boiling a little bit. The other thing is, I will admit, I do not speak Japanese.
Whoa,
so it's hard for
bombshell.
me. I know.
Holy crap.
I know. I don't give that little nugget out to just anybody. So Jolly, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And listeners, you're welcome. So I don't know about tone of delivery in these sort of comments, right? On paper, you're like, hot damn, that stuff is spicy. But when it comes out of somebody's mouth and you can't tell if they're really joking around or if they raise their eyebrows, kind of like, aha, just kidding. That sort of stuff is tonally, it's important. But let's just take it for what it is on a piece of paper, shall we? I love it.
It's the offseason.
I love it in part because it feels like it gives a lot more fan bases a chance. Because I do feel like a lot of people think there is a direct pipeline from Japan to Chavez Ravine. It certainly feels that way. I mean, they have tapped into the Japanese market where the gates really flooded when Ohtani signed over there. And there are even those reports that $700 million, much of which was deferred, but that $700 million, the Dodgers already made it up after the first season of Ohtani because of all the business deals. And so you would think there's going to be more linkage between great Japanese players. And I think that will continue. But I do take this guy at his word. I think he does want to pitch against those dudes. And I, for one, would love it. I think it's great theater. It gives us more to talk about. And if he is listen, you tell me, you've done much more work on him than I have. Where does he fit? Is he a good number two at this point of his career?
So I'll say this. Imai is an interesting case because I think his floor is a lot lower, but his ceiling is a lot higher. Imai came up very young in the MLB.
Higher and lower than what? What are you comparing it to?
I'll compare it to maybe Yusei Kikuchi when he came over, or Shota Imanaga when he came over. Those are
Okay.
sort of the comps that he's been receiving from reputable scouts. Imai came up very young in MPB because when he was drafted to the Cebu Lions, they lost 3 of their pitchers in one offseason to free agency, so they needed him basically to fill a role. So for the first 3 or 4 years of his career, he dealt with insane control issues. If you go look at his numbers, his walk totals are very, very high for the first part of his career. Only recently, he's changed his mechanics and delivery the past 3 years, and steadily every year he has improved. He's changed the grip of his slider so that it doesn't have a traditional sweep motion. It's more of a downward motion. If you look at video of it, it kind of looks like a splitter even. But basically what I'm trying to say is that he only recently has found the best version of himself, and he's kind of coming over at the perfect time to maximize on that value. So when he gets here, yeah, you might see bouts of control issues as he gets used to a new baseball and a new league and new stadiums, new mounds, all that stuff. But at the same time, I think teams fully recognize that he's hitting the apex of his talents at age 28. And for the first 3 to 4 years of this contract, whatever the number might be, you're going to get a pretty good mid-rotation starter with potential high upside.
Mm-hmm. Well, there were a lot of Yankee fans that certainly got excited when they read these comments, that they want to get in on that, and they do need help at the back end of their rotation, and he could slide in nicely. Once again, they're not going to have Garrett Cole early. They're not going to have Carlos Rodon early, so he'll even be more important at the beginning of the year. But I like everything I'm seeing out of him, with his words and also all the clips. So I'm excited for him to sign somewhere before the beginning of the year. I can't wait.
Well, Rosie, speaking of starting pitching options, one during our show just came off the board. I don't know if you've checked your phone at all.
No.
A trade has happened in the middle of baseball today.
Oh, come on.
The Cardinals have just traded Sonny Gray to the Boston Red Sox for the final 2 years of his contract. That was just tweeted out by Bob Nightingale, and the graphics out on Talking Baseball. So I'm taking them at their word.
Okay, for what?
We don't know the return yet. We only know that Sonny Gray is being moved, even though he has a no trade clause. Jeff Passan now tweeted it too, but he waived that no trade clause.
Wow. All right.
Big
So
deal.
this is the second big name to waive a no trade clause. I think for Sonny Gray, this is really interesting.
This is one of the more explosive Novembers of an MLB offseason I can remember. Usually nothing happens for this entire month.
Okay, so let's start with this, obviously, first from the Red Sox side. We were wondering, last year they went and they plucked Garrett Crochet from the White Sox, and all he did was turn into the Cy Young runner-up and just be a monster. I think, didn't he go 8 innings in that wild card win, that game 1 win?
130,000 pitches or something like that.
Right, exactly. So now let's get to the Red Sox depth chart. Crochet, Bayo, Early,
Cutter Crawford, and then I guess it would be Sonny Gray.
Yeah, they probably still need a little bit more depth. They still have some other young guys that they can rely on. It'll be very interesting to see what they return. Dan, keep your eyes out for that. If you've got, let's get.
I'll also keep my eyes peeled as well.
Yeah, but with the Cardinals, we had heard that they were going to finally start moving some guys. They really didn't do it a ton last year. They did trade Helsley to your Mets, which wasn't great from the New York vantage point.
Thanks for the reminder. Appreciate
it. Sorry, we just report facts on baseball today. So I love this move. Sonny Gray's been kind of on layaway because you haven't really paid attention to what he's done the last few years because the Cardinals have kind of stunk. I think, depending on what they have to give up, obviously, you have to know the back end of the equation. But I like the play for going to get a veteran at this point and putting him behind Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, I really like this move for basically any team that decided to make it because it kind of operates as a 1-year deal. It's a 1-year, $35 million deal. But if you have the payroll to allocate that, then why not? Because I think the upside for Sonny Gray is still there. In his age 35 season, the fastball velocity was definitely down a little bit more. But also, he had a very odd season where I think he was a victim of a few really, really bad starts that kind of inflated all of his numbers. He had 2 separate starts where he didn't finish 4 innings and gave up 8 earned runs or more against the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. And everything else outside of that was pretty decently quality. Also, 17 of his 32 starts, so roughly half, were 6 innings or more. So if nothing else, Sonny Gray is going to give you a workload here. He's gone 180 innings in 2 of his last 3 seasons. I think the Red Sox needed this as well because I feel like Sonny Gray, in my mind, is going to replace the role that Lucas Giolito played for them last year, where it's a veteran guy with higher upside that's going to give you innings when you need them late in the season. I think the Red Sox have more to do for their rotation in terms of getting the, even more higher upside guys. But playoff series, a best of 3 where you have Crochet, Bayo, and then instead of Connolly early, you throw in Sonny Gray. I think their odds just went up in terms of winning that playoff series. So I like the move a lot for them. I didn't see the Red Sox as a potential suitor, but now that it's the thing that's happened, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Ken Rosenthal has a little bit more on the salary structure of this. The deal, the contract is reportedly being reworked to a 1 year.
Interesting.
1 year plus a mutual option. So this year's salary is going to be $31 million. The mutual option buyout of $10 million. So Gray essentially getting $41 million.
He's getting even more. Wow.
Holy smokes.
Jeez. Starting pitching's not cheap, Chris Rose. It is not cheap.
And this is also interesting because Chaim Bloom taking over in St. Louis. And where was he before this? Boston.
Yep.
So he obviously knows the personnel there. We're waiting on the backside of this trade. And St. Louis, listen, I don't know how much you could get for a guy who is in his mid-30s and, getting close to the end here. But I hope for their sake they get something that's worthwhile because Sonny Gray is a dude that – and also this is nice for Boston where they don't have to mess with the long-term side of free agency on the pitching market, right? They can get a guy who they know is going to give them 175, 180 innings. That's going to be a bulldog if and when they get to the playoffs. It just feels like a good, solid move.
Yeah, I mean, for the Cardinals, when they first signed it, I thought it was a good move for them because it was low committal in terms of years. And, Sonny Gray was coming off a season where he finished runner-up in Cy Young voting, lest we forget. I wonder what the situation was with last year's trade deadline because, as you remember, pitchers that got traded at the deadline last year went for extremely high prices, even if they were just bullpen guys, whereas hitters, the market was definitely a little bit lighter. You could get guys like Josh Naylor and Geno Suarez for guys who weren't even in your top 10 prospects like the Mariners did. So I wonder if they were shopping him around and they just didn't really find the price that they liked. I also wonder what the money exchange is here. I think the Cardinals, in their best interest, would be maybe taking on some of the money in hopes of getting a better prospect from the Red Sox, because the Red Sox, even after the Garrett Crochet trade, still have one of the best farm systems in baseball. They're still a major player, in my opinion, for Tarek Skubal if he does get traded. I think they could put together one of the best packages. So I'm hoping the Red Sox got something, the Cardinals got something of significance in terms of their return.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. The other side of this as well is that Sonny Gray is joining his 6th team, which is incredible, right? Drafted by the A's, made his major league debut in 2013, got dealt to the Yankees where he had kind of the roughest patch of his career, then went to Cincinnati, had one outstanding year. Then we had the COVID situation. Then he had another year in Cincy, got dealt to Minnesota, a couple of really good years, including one where he finished runner-up for the Cy Young or 3rd for the Cy Young. Let me see what
that was. Runner-up, yeah.
Yeah, he was runner-up. And then eventually to St. Louis, man. He has moved around. People who are Yankee fans and remember his stint in the American League East, which was not great. In fact, dare I say the worst time of his career, might say, well, maybe he can't handle the pressure of the East Coast. I don't know if that's fair. Who knows what was going on with just his life situation at the time. Maybe he didn't love New York. Maybe he's going to like Boston a little. You never know what it could be. But Sonny Gray to the Red Sox is happening. John Heyman was the first to report it. Ken Rosenthal with a little bit more on the dollar figures of this. Still nothing, Dan, in terms of who they're getting back, huh? Yeah. All right. Well, if we get it before the end of this. What's that? Oh, Dick Fitz is going to St. Louis. Richard Clark, is that what you said?
That sounds like a name that's familiar.
Brandon Clark, okay? And Dick Fitz is going.
So quick look, Brandon Clark is the number 5 prospect in the Red Sox system. Left-hander, 22 years old, just finished a season in high A where he made 14 starts with a 4.03 ERA, but a 128 batting average against. Looks like a guy that might have some control issues to figure out, but clearly some really good swing and miss stuff. 60 strikeouts in 38 innings.
Okay. And Dick Fitz is a guy that has kind of bounced up and down.
Does he like to go by Dick Fitz, or are you just calling him?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
How often do we get to say it where, you can be a sophomore in high school again and not feel terrible about it?
Right.
So there you go, Cardinals. We need a lot of reaction to all the stuff we've talked about. Earlier trade between the Mets and the Rangers. Next moves that you would make for both teams. Is Pete Alonso coming back? Is Edwin Diaz coming back? I could see Jolly doing his little, oh, yeah, let's go. Let's make sure we get that done. And then the breaking news that we got during baseball today. See, Jolly, I don't know if Plouffe pulls that out of the bag. I think we find out afterward, and then we're like, oh, we got to retape the show. But no, you were all over.
I got my fastball still.
Sonny Gray, what is first blush? What is everybody's reaction to him going from St. Louis to Boston for a couple of pitchers? Let us know. Man, oh, man. Let's stay in the American League East, where Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner actually met the media on Monday to discuss several topics, including what is next in terms of roster construction. And yes, the P word, payroll.
Would it be ideal if I went down? Of course. But does that mean that's going to happen? Of course not. Again, we want to field a team we know can win a championship, or we believe can win a championship. We don't know anything in that regards as far as the future. But yeah, so it just hasn't changed, John, which is why, payrolls have gone up probably every year. Doesn't mean they won't go slightly down one year and then up the year after that. I mean, it all depends on what's out there and what the possibilities are.
Name's Chris, not John, by the way, Hal. Now, he was answering John Heyman's question on Zoom. So does that mean your payroll's going up? Or
that's a good impression.
And what about so are you saying you're not profitable? I don't quite understand what you're saying. So how concerned should Yankee fans be with what just came out of his mouth? And really, even let's dive a little bit more into what went on.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, as a non-Yankee fan, I didn't really have issue with a lot of what he said there. I thought it was pretty transparent. I think that him laying into the players, I thought was more of an interesting note. He talked a lot about coaching. He talked a lot about the base running miscues and the fielding shortcomings of the Yankees this year and how they wanted to improve that. I think that's the more of note thing, but I think the quote that got taken out and put in headlines was, if I could lower payroll, I'd love to, or something along those lines, whatever he said. And obviously fans are going to react to that because the Yankees have been losing a lot of bidding wars in recent off seasons, and that's not the history that they've built themselves up to. So I think that's naturally going to get the biggest reaction. But no, in terms of Hal's entire quote, I thought it was fairly accurate and kind of refreshing to hear from an owner of, yeah, I would like to lower payroll, but I understand the situation I'm in, so I'm obviously not going to do that. It's just a matter of how much we spend and is it worth it to spend on the class that we have in front of us.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with what he said there. Like, I would love to pay lower taxes, but the reality with where I live, awesome. I'm not going to. So we gotta find a few more bucks there and go do it. For them, obviously, a lot of people will strictly point to the value of the franchise, which has gone up by $3 billion over the last, 5-6 years or something like that, and it's a $8 billion assessment. It's pretty crazy. And listen, where he would lose, I think, when he opened his mouth was about the profitability of the team, right? Don't assume that just because our revenue was $700 million last year that we were a profitable franchise. Don't do that, people. You really lose people when you are a billionaire and your franchise is worth $8 billion. Or heck, it's unfair of me to say exactly what Hal Steinbrenner is net worth wise, because I don't know that. But whatever it is, when you're talking to the media, you're talking to your fan base. And those are people who aren't going to be interested in hearing whether or not you were profitable or not. Just improve your team so we can get back to the World Series like we were in 2024 and hopefully win one of these damn things for the first time since 2009. That's what they want to hear. Like, what they wanted to hear was what his daddy would have said if he had gone 16 years without winning a World Series, was what, shit. The Yankees are not the premier destination in the sport anymore, and it's my job, no matter how much I have to open my wallet, to make sure that it is. It's still a beloved franchise. It still is different when you put on the pinstripes, but it's not the number one attraction spot that it was. And that's what people
Yeah.
I watched George Steinbrenner's entire career. I watched it when he would fire Billy Martin 5 times. And I sat there, and my father, who was a big businessman, loved Steinbrenner from that standpoint. Nothing would stand in his way. Nothing would. And with Hal, it's just a different DNA. And there was a clip I had a couple years ago where I said, hey, get used to it, Yankee fans. The kids are not the same as daddy.
I think it's half that, and I think they are playing a different game where I don't think a lot of teams stood in the way of George Steinbrenner operating the way he wanted to operate. And I think there's more competition now. There's more feasible destinations that teams, players can sign on to and know that they'll be contending for a World Series every year. I think that is also part of the truth here. I'm not defending Hal. Hal's had his shortcomings for sure. But at the same time, when I see a lot of older Yankees fans saying, George would be rolling over his grave or George wouldn't have done this or that, I would have loved to see how George would have operated the team with the competition that's around now. I constantly think about that.
Well, we can say this. He would have been the second richest owner in New York.
It's true. It's very true.
I mean, he didn't have to deal with that back in the day.
I think Hal brought up the Mets in his comments as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something he has to think about and deal with.
Yeah. For the most part, I didn't mind what he said. It kind of interested me that he showed up in a T-shirt after he got through a life cycle workout or something, because I could just imagine his old man. First of all, I don't think he would ever be doing it in Zoom. I think he would call and make sure that every reporter was somebody that he could see eye to eye in a room, and he would be wearing an ascot and his blazer and having his press conference that way. I do wish that you could have seen the Steinbrenner years because they were something to behold. It was, we think that some of these owners, oh my God, did you hear what he said? He used to go frickin' nuts. It was great theater. It really was. Yankees, what did you think of the comments? What do we got here, Yankee fans? I'd like to hear from you. I don't know. $319 million payroll last year. Competitive balance tax, they're always up there. I think they were second last year, maybe. I don't know.
Why not first?
Quick shout out to our friends over at Nike. Baseball may be buttoned up, but it's not too late to rep your team, celebrate another season down. So go check out our affiliate link in the description below. Shop amazing Nike gear. So go do that today. Holidays are right around the corner. You can find all sorts of sweats, shoes, hats, whatever you need. Go get comfortable. Go get yourself some good Nike gear. All right, last thing that was kind of floating around social media over the last several days, Joey Gallo. We had heard that he was working on his pitching form, and we got to see it out there as well. Always had a great arm in the outfield. Big dude, well put together, looks pitcher-ish. How interested are you on following this story on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I was interested when Anthony Goes made the transition, so Joey Gallo interests me far more than that. I'm rooting for Joey Gallo. I think he's a good dude that ended up in a situation that wasn't great for him, and I think that's how he's getting remembered when, in fact, Gallo was a terrific player for a lot of years, and his mechanics look pretty good there. He's always been known to have a great arm in the outfield. So, yeah, part of me is morbidly curious. Could Joey Gallo end up as a middle reliever? We've seen a lot of position players make the transition. I think of Matt Bush for the Rangers back in those mid-2010s years. He was their closer at one point. He was throwing absolute gas. So I believe in it, and I want to see it happen.
I'm very interested. Last year, Tyler Naquin, who was a former outfielder for my Cleveland franchise, actually pitched in some games, hit upper 90s. Outfielders really can let it eat. Now, it's a very, very different thing than when you're doing it on the mound. But I'm curious. I want to see it. Wouldn't it be great if he became a strikeout king on the mound to go along with the batter's box?
It would be the storybook ending to that career.
Would be incredibly full circle. Love to see it. And I always loved chatting with Gallo. We had him on Intentional Talk one time when he was playing with the Rangers. And somehow we got on the discussion of football. He had told me off camera that he was a big Giants fan.
Oh.
Huge. And not San Francisco. We're talking New York Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Not a great thing to be when you're playing your professional sports in the Texas/Arlington area of life. And then we talked about it on Intentional Talk. And the next time I saw him, I was like, I can't believe you aired me out like that. It's like, come on. You could be a fan of whomever. Nobody's going to care. He's like, down here, they care, bro. Thank you very much. One other quick reminder, Slashline, the new way to shop your favorite gear from the John Boy Media Store. It's the same JM merch team, same awesome designs, just a better website, a better experience for you. And it's also a cooler name for our store, so we kind of dig that. Slashline's all about showing off your favorite team, your favorite player, your favorite moment. Do it loud and proud. Just click the link in the description to shop now. Go do that. Once again, holidays around the corner. Let us be a helping hand. Thanksgiving, Thursday, what do you got plan-wise?
Hanging out with the fiance's family. Got to start alternating holidays. It's part of the trade-off, guys. It's all part about compromise. But I'm planning on eating a dangerous amount of food and feeling very sick after.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Special for the Rose family. All three brothers, we live on the West Coast, but for the first time, we're all going to be together.
Wow.
So one of my brothers is bringing his entire family, his daughter and his son, which is very cool. And we're getting together with Michelle's family that lives here. Now, here's the caveat. The two kids, so my niece and nephew from my oldest brother, have not seen her family since the wedding day.
Wow.
So our flower girl, my niece, Maddie, who was our flower girl at 4 years old, is now 32. And it's not because the families didn't get along. It's just a logistical thing. We were always on the West Coast, and they lived on the East Coast for decades and all that sort of stuff. So I can only wait to see everybody's reaction when they're seeing each other for the first time in 28 years.
The Rose family reunion we've all been asking for.
Yes, absolutely. We might even do a stream of it.
I think so. Break out the mics.
If you guys are craving it, you can let us know. Maybe we'll live stream that.
Yeah, leave a comment about that.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what we want to hear. So there you go. All right. Always appreciate you hanging out with us as you've done the last couple of shows. Happy, healthy Thanksgiving to you and the rest of your families. We get ready for Jolly Palooza in mid-August of 2026.
My God, giving away the date. Careful, Chris Rose.
I didn't give directions to the
What if people crash the party?
No, they're not going to do that.
Okay.
I have a feeling that you might be talking about it a little bit more as we approach it.
You think so?
Sorry, strike that from the record, Dan.
There you go.
It's not even happening in 2026. It's now been
who knows when it's happening? Undefined.
It's been moved to 2029. Sorry about that. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, that is the uber-talented Jolly Olive, who is not getting married anytime soon. I am Chris Rose. Happy Turkey Day to everybody out there. We will see you next week, unless there's another huge trade here on Baseball Today.